take a short break there so that we could all smoke cigars and
pee.
take leaks.
Yeah.
Which makes me think, how many times have you tried to quit smoking, Bill?
I used to be able to quit for seriously, like a year or two at a time, and it didn't bother me. And now it's got a hold of me. I'm gonna have to quit soon, though. I mean, I have to. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. But
Yeah.
but I have to. Sooner or later, I've got to. Thank you for the water.
Yes.
Yeah, I finally kicked it, and it wasn't fun. But you know what? When you quit for a while sometimes, and then you go back, and then you quit for a while, and then finally you get good at like the first 3 days or 4 days, and you finally realize what it's going to be like. Because I think people freak out on the first, 24 hours, like, oh my God. And if you realize that you could just go the 3 days, then it starts to get a little easier. It starts to get just that little bit easier. And then you're on an actual good trend towards not smoking anymore. But, I'm telling you, I've been off the wagon, on the wagon, off the wagon. And finally, this time, I think I'm going to, as expensive as cigarettes are.
Yeah.
Well, stay off
you're smart because, we called you up one night and said, why don't you guys come over and we'll cook some hamburgers on the grill or something. And Brian's like, I just quit smoking. I can't.
And in my head, I was like, that's a good reason to fall off the wagon. I can always just start back up after this weekend.
Right. And that's the problem because if you're trying to quit and you start drinking,
There's no way.
It's hand in hand.
Yeah, you have to cut
and where's my cigarettes?
Right, you have to cut yourself off from everybody that smokes. It's almost like going to boot camp. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you have to understand that for the next couple weeks, you're not going to do anything fun. You're going to sit and feel like this.
Right.
You know what I mean? But when you come out of the other end, you realize you can drive past gas stations and not want to buy cigarettes, and you start to realize you feel better, food tastes better, all them happy things, and you'll get through it, Bill. You're a smart guy, and you're.
Well, I appreciate the compliment.
When you want to do it, you'll do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to sooner or later.
Yep.
So I was gonna ask you, Bill.
Yeah.
Say for some reason we could make some sort of weird time machine, okay? And I can take the Bill Peiffer that's sitting across from me right now and put you in a time machine and take you back 30 years ago.
Right.
And you could walk up to you and say something to you that would be mind or life altering or anything. If you ran into you 30 years ago, the 30-year younger Bill Peiffer, and you're you, knowing what you know now, what would you say to yourself, and would you even like yourself?
Well, that's a tough question. Would I like myself? Wait a minute. Would I like myself?
Either one.
Now
Would that
or
kid
back
like
then?
you, and would you like that kid?
That kid would adore me. You know what I mean? I hate that kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was a time there where I believed the bullshit.
Okay.
You know what I mean? There was a time, you know what I mean? Like you said, you're going into places, you know what I mean?
Right.
I got Warner Brothers calling me from overseas. I'm talking on the phone with, Clive Davies from Arista Records, I mean, there was a time, I lost my train of thought there because I was going to go off on another spiel there. Remind me to bring that up, that Clive Davies thing. But yeah, there was a time, you're doing all that. You start believing it. You know what I mean? You think, hey, I'm on my way. I'm going to be famous. And the weirdest part about it is when you're young, and I think you're an accomplished musician, and I don't know what it is, but when you're young like that and you're playing, you want to be famous so bad, and then nowadays I look at it and I go, well, what for?
Right.
You know what I mean? Why would I don't want to be famous. What I like to do now is write some songs, have somebody pick them up, put them in a movie, and get some money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like we were talking like Mark Shrupp and all that, you know what I mean? And Mark was saying, well, and I guess Mark's a dear friend of mine. It's just something we disagree on. He said, when you start doing it for money, then you've lost your edge. Bullshit. I mean, you know what I mean? I've got to have money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I listen to a lot of podcasts, and they talk about fame and the luxuries of that, or what it does to your art, and if you made a lot of money, you made your millions of dollars. They always say that them people that have made their millions of dollars, they always seem to suck after they get famous. Like, your first records that you fall in love with from artists are always when they're hungry and they're just starting to get into the business and they're still hungry. And then after they get to be famous, then their records start to flag. It seems like.
Yeah. Do you believe that?
Or
do you believe they just run out of ideas?
I think it depends. That too, but I think it depends on if they were in it from the beginning because of the art or if they were in it to get famous. Because once you reach fame, there's nothing left to do.
Right.
You're famous now. I don't care what I put out. And there's people that were in it for the art, and the fame just allows them more time in the day to perform their art.
Right.
And to work their art. Say, for example, if you're a stand-up comedian, you know what I mean? You have to work a day job and then go down to the Improv on the weekends and try to hone your craft. And then say, you get picked up and you get famous on some Showtime special or something. Now you're famous and rich or whatever, you get a movie, and then you start to not want, well, no. It depends. If you're in it for the art, then you don't have to work anymore. You can hone your craft better. Now you can spend more time writing and getting better at it as compared to, just doing it with groupies and like, I'm famous now. You know what I mean? And
yeah, if you think about it, though, almost all of the good comedians that have been picked up in movies and all that, they'll still go down to the Improv. They'll still go to the Comedy Store.
Absolutely.
Even though they're full of millions of dollars, they'll still stop in on a Friday night and go, I'm going to go up and do a set.
Because they love it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, they like it. So, yeah,
I mean, have you found yourself, Bill, because I'm sorry I keep saying half a sentence and then going backwards, but my statement is, anymore, when I go to see you, I love to hear you sing, obviously, and and all that stuff, but really I'm there because I like to hear you talk. and I'm being honest, because when I try to talk in between songs and try to be a front man and all that, I usually hear there's always some asshole in the back room, shut up and play something,
Right.
and
Well, they do
I'm
it
like,
with me too,
Well, but to me, I'm like, you shut up. Bill's talking. Because it's fun. It's fun to watch you work a room. You know what I mean? Because, well, first of all, I've learned a lot from it. And because you're good at it. You've been doing it for so long, you know how to read a room, and you're always paying attention to the flow of how the room's going. And people.
Well, sometimes there's a flow. Sometimes it's just a dead room.
And you tell them that though too. You go, come on, fuckers.
I've always had the
He gets away with
philosophy.
it.
Yeah, well, I've always had the philosophy, the same philosophy. I've never, at least I can say I've stayed true to that. I've always stayed on stage is my living room.
Right.
I just look at the people out there as, like, if this wasn't here, these microphones and these headphones, and we were sitting here drinking beer, that's the same way I treat, and you see it.
Yeah.
That's how I treat the crowd. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So what if I would have got famous? How are you going to transfer that over to 30,000 people?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I'm saying? It probably wouldn't work, would it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, like a lot of these famous comedians like to come back and do like 300 seaters rather than playing these big stadiums.
Right, exactly, right.
Because there's a different kind of vibe. It's got its own, certain kind of call and answer.
Well, you're a musician, and you know this as well as I do. You'd rather work a room with 30 people having a ball than 150 people that didn't give a shit you were there.
That depends on how much cover was.
Yeah, well, okay. Take the monetary part away.
Because I'm in it for the damn money
Right,
anymore,
yeah,
buddy.
right. Yeah, take the monetary part away and just say, but yeah, I mean, the worst part about being a musician is when you're up on stage and you play for the night and you don't have a good crowd, then you got to go and get paid from that guy.
Yeah.
Right. He's got to look at you and go, "Ugh." You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
that sucks.
Yeah, and asking for, I always thought the kid, when I asked the question about if you ran into you so many years ago, whatever, the kid that I was back then, if I walked up to me and said, hey, you're going to be able to run around with a microphone in your hand and stupid tight pants and eyeliner and your hair down, and there's going to be a whole bunch of cougars that are, want to touch your pants and stuff, and you're going to sing a bunch of these Bon Jovi songs and all that, and at the end of the night, you're going to get, like, cash.
Right.
And you're probably going to bitch about how, you didn't get enough of it.
Right.
And then you're going to moan about how, the night was this and that. And that kid's going to look at me and go, you got to do what?
Right.
That's going to be awesome.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
You got to be on stage and like rock out and like, did you say tight pants? Yes, man. It's like things change so quickly. My perspective, my what I thought being in a band was, as a kid is totally different than it really is.
Right.
And I think everybody learns that really quickly.
Well, in probably 83 till 87 or something, when the band was on the road, we were going places, and they were giving us $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. You know what I mean? And you think, man,
Wow.
people would be like, I know what they got paid. Them guys bank, but we didn't. We had 5 of us in the band. and we had 5 on the road crew, and we had to pay for all that gear. I was making $125 a week. That's all I made.
Wow.
Wow.
You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? You know?
Yeah.
So, you know, my tax returns, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Look like, that's $250,000 here, and you're saying you only got, you know, $8,000? Yes, I did. You know?
Yeah.
Come look at my house. You know, for real.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, just come have a gander. The water's not turned on right now.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? You can come out if you want. You know.
That's hilarious.
You know, we go on the road for 3 months, 2 months, whatever, and come home. There's no electricity. There's no water there. There's no. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
You know, you save up a little bit of money. You get home. What do you got? You know, put it all together, go get it turned back on, you know, stay for 3 weeks and then go again. You know?
Huh.
So what would you say would be, if you, I know this might be hard to do and it's so cliche to ask this, but is there any shows that you've ever played in your life that stand out as like the one that when you think back with like great feelings and man, I'd want to be on that stage all the time, every night?
There's like 3 of them. One of them you were on in the band with us.
Was it Bad Company?
Bad Company. That was
Really?
Yeah, that was one of my favorite shows. Didn't you think that was a riot?
I was so like a deer in headlights at that point. You know, I was like, what, heartbroken? Girlfriend
Right.
just dumped me.
Yeah.
And here we are in front of 4,000 people or whatever.
Right.
Now we talked about this before.
Right.
Your girlfriend dumps you. You know, you're in between girls. You know, and you're up there. Okay, now let's go play in front of these 4,000 people.
You weren't in between girls. Miss America could have come up to you and you'd have been like, I don't love you.
Yeah. So here we are, you know, playing in front
And I'm
of
not making sense about you. That's about anybody.
I know.
Guy
We're
or girl.
idiots.
Yeah.
You get
Idiots.
dumped good and hard, and I don't care if you're a guy or a girl. It hurts.
Yeah.
buddy.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah,
and
I
we're both going through the same thing.
Yeah.
And here we are backstage. What do you think she's doing right now? You know, and we're getting ready to go out in front of 4,000 people and slay. You know what I mean?
That was one of my favorite shows. And
Yeah.
then, we opened up right when the Outfield had their heyday, their big hit there. They were on tour with Jefferson Starship, and they left to do their own, like, you know, call ballroom type tour. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You know, when they had to, like, if they were off for 3 days, they'd go do their headlining thing. We opened up for them, and that was probably my very first time, you know, with the. You know what I mean? The lights go off. You know what I mean? You know.
Right.
You know, and that was like, holy shit.
So you remember that.
Yeah.
And, you know, like.
And to this day, that's the only time I ever get nervous. If I do a big show, I can be. I'm fine. I'm on stage. I mean, I'm on the stairs. I'm fine. We're having a good time. We're getting ready to go out and do everything. It's another day at the office.
Yeah.
But on a big show, when they'll, you know, because the lights don't all, off they go, and then, you know, shit.
Not too many people
You know
know
what I
what
mean?
that feels like, you know, and when you're the band that in that you're talking about. It's not like, yeah, all right, you know, a couple guys yelling, you know,
Right.
you guys ready to go, you know what I mean, strumming
Right.
guitar a couple times. You're talking about thousands of people at once making a sound that you can't determine what it is, and it sounds like,
Right.
you know what I mean? And
It's the noise is
Scary.
this, but here's what it said. And but what it's saying is, don't suck. You know, in your head, don't you suck. You know, get out there and do. You know, you've been doing this a long time. Get out there and do it. You know.
oh no, mine said, you suck. They're gonna know, Brian. They're gonna find out.
Right. They're gonna know you're a big farce.
Yeah, I remember doing that when we played. Lucky enough to play a couple shows like that, and people look at you differently, you know, and you can't tell if they're looking at you like, "Who's this asshole?" or if they're like in awe, you know, just staring at you like you're from outer space,
Right.
you know. And I didn't know what to do with that. You know, they wanted to touch your pants and like, wow,
Yeah.
and you're like,
Well-
I live down the street. I'm gonna push a pallet jack tomorrow morning.
Right,
You know what I
right,
mean?
yeah.
You know?
Well, you know that Outfield show when we got on stage, you know, and we're doing our opening number.
They still call it
song,
opening
whatever.
numbers.
Yeah, I guess they do when you're my age. But I look down the crowd and there's fucking girls and they're just bawling, you know, just crying. I'm just like,
Wow.
we're the fucking Beatles.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I glance down again. And I'm like, no, they're getting crushed to death. Fuck. You know what I mean? So I got in
So
between our very
close.
first song, I'm like,
Yeah.
stop. You know, I'm like, get some people out here and pull. You know, we're pulling people out of the crowd because
Yeah.
you know, they were literally getting crushed to get. You know, but you think, you know, man, fuck. You know, like, I think I'm gonna be sad. Yeah, no, they're getting killed.
Yeah.
All right, so you said something about you were talking to Clive Davis.
Oh, that fucker.
Yeah. Well, I don't remember that part of the movie,
Clive Davis. Is it Davis or Davies? Davis.
I think it's Davies.
I don't know.
Sure.
Whatever.
No, it doesn't matter. He's an asshole, whoever
Yeah,
it
it
is.
sounds like it.
Well, Warner Brothers, flew us over there to England and then took a pass on us. Thank them. But we were talking to several different. We were talking to Atlantic and
You're
different.
talking about Lynn Allen, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And at this point, I'm sure we're going to go. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's a major is going to pick us up.
Right.
You know what I mean? And when I say sure, I mean I'm not cocky sure, but I'm like, these fuckers are calling me on the phone. We don't even have a manager. I mean, they're calling me at my house.
Okay.
Hey, this so-and-so, would you please call back Clive Davies at Arista Records? I'm like, what? Are you shitting me? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I get off the phone, then I dial whatever it is, fun 55512, whatever it is, the area code, to see if that's really the number for Arista. And I ask them, you got a number for Arista Records? But and I'm like, yep, that's the real number. It's them. You know what I mean? 'Cause I don't know if it's somebody fucking with me. I call him up, and then he's seriously thinking about signing the band. He's talking about this and that. He want to hear a little bit more material, and then that thing broke with those two fucks that were lip syncing.
Oh, Milli Vanilli?
Yeah. And then next time I talk to him, he's like, well, we're going to take a pass. I'm like, you motherfucker, you'll sign two fucking lip-syncing fucking motherfuckers that aren't even making their own. I mean, I'm mad and I'm yelling at him on the phone, He's like, well, that's just the way this by. Click.
Oh, jeez.
Jeez.
But I yelled at him, told him, you fucker.
Really?
Yeah, well, think about it. Yeah, I mean, here's five guys, working hard,
Oh, yeah.
out on the road, writing songs, doing, what I mean, and then you go and get two guys that don't even really, and record all this stuff and put them out there and make millions of dollars,
Wow.
and embarrass yourself,
Yeah.
So you took off to L.A. for a while, right?
Yeah.
And you went out there with the intentions of,
Right.
getting into the scene. You met a lot of people out there, but what was the music scene like out there? Because a lot of people think that once you get out there, it's just like here, and if you climb to the top there, then you're gonna break, and that's true. But climbing to the top there means
The problem with in those days, I don't know what it's like now, but the problem with that stuff was like, when we got out there, Rat was just taking off. They had the EP with "You Think You're Tough" on it.
Mm-hmm.
Great White was just getting a record deal. Motley Crue was, you see these guys all the time. On the boulevard and other places. You see them. You
Right.
know them. Hey, what's up? I mean, I'm not great friends, but you know who
Right.
they are. Hey, what's up? The deal is, back then in L.A., the reason those bands made it, and because they were good. I mean, I thought Rat wrote some really killer stuff. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
I'm a huge Rat fan. I love Rat.
Yeah, but the reason I think those guys were successful is because their families were there. A lot of those guys lived with their mom and dad. They didn't have, what I mean? When you're just out there with five guys from, if you leave in Iowa, man, what I mean? You got to work. You got to keep a residence. You got, what I mean?
Right.
You've got to rent a place to rehearse. You've got to, what I mean? Those guys would all get together at my, their dad's house.
Right, in the garage.
Right, exactly.
Kind of like Motley Crue, they were all from there.
Right, that's what I mean. You're all from that. They all know each other, and they're all.
So they have roots there. There's no,
Right,
if they fail, they go like back 2 miles away from the strip and back to their house. You know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, somebody's gonna know a girl that's got a house with a basement, and she likes to have the band around. So now that you're not paying for rehearsal space. Some, what I mean, it's
Gotcha.
just it's a rigged deck.
Sure. Yeah, because the whole story of Axl Rose hitchhiking all the way to L.A. from Indiana or whatever, and to look for his guitar player, and didn't even back then there was no cell phones. You weren't gonna
Right.
So he just went there and started looking around and sleeping under steps and this and that. I mean, that's a weird story there, because then when he finally made it, he lost his head.
Yeah.
God. I
Yeah.
mean, that was one of my favorite records, the Appetite for Destruction.
Yeah, that's a great record.
And what an asshole. You know what I mean?
Well, I still think November Rain's one of the prettiest songs ever written.
You think?
Oh God, I just think that's beautiful.
And what a flawed voice, though. What a flawed but perfect voice.
Yeah.
It's one of them voices you can't mistake. You hear that voice and you're like, that's Axl Rose.
you know it, yeah.
Yeah. And but so flawed, really, when you break it down for.
Somebody's sitting stepping on the cat.
Yeah. Definitely.
It's like if he tried out for my band, I'd have been like,
I don't think so.
whatever.
Whatever.
No, I don't think so. What's your
Whatever.
name? Asshole Rose. Get out of
Yeah.
here. You don't
Yeah.
sound like Paul Stanley.
That is weird, though. That I mean, you'd have to be bleeding to death to be in a dressing room with 12,000 people out there that pay money to see it to go. I don't think I'm going on.
They can wait.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't feel right.
right. I mean, you're an asshole.
Well, that's why they all said enough of him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's enough of this shit.
Yeah.
Because they're all ready to go play, and he's like, I'm not feeling it yet.
Yeah, you're an asshole
Yeah.
if you're doing that kind of shit.
Yeah, and what an asshole.
I'm not feeling it yet.
I need a nap.
I need a nap.
Yeah.